Marcus Webb sent us this account in writing first, 12 pages, single-spaced. Then he agreed to record it. He said the written version was more accurate. He said when he speaks it, he edits without meaning to. He said, "There are things that sound insane out loud that I need you to hear anyway." We asked him what he wanted from sending this to us. He said, "I want someone to check on Owen Carver." He gave us an address. We looked into Owen Carver. We'll tell you what we found at the end. This is Marcus. The last time I saw Pocket, he was pulling toward the water. He'd never done that before. 4 years, I'd walked that path. He always pulled toward the grass. That afternoon, he pulled toward the water. I let him lead. That was the last decision I made that day that I understood. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 31. I do freelance graphic design. I work from home, which means I talk to my dog more than I talk to most people. I want to say something about Pocket before I go any further. I named him Pocket because when I got him, he was 8 weeks old and he fit in the front pocket of my hoodie. I have a photo of that. He's looking up at the camera with his chin on the pocket edge. I'm telling you that so you understand what I'm telling you when I say his name later. I'm not a person who anthropomorphizes animals. I don't dress him up. I don't talk about him like he's a child. He was a dog. He was my dog. He was the best thing about my daily life for 4 years, and Owen knew that. That's the part I keep coming back to. Owen knew that. Owen Carver and I met at a design firm in 2018. We both quit around the same time to freelance, kept the friendship, Tuesday coffee. That was the structure. Every Tuesday, the same place on Congress Street. 6 years of Tuesdays. Owen was the most grounded person I knew. Dry humor, direct. The person who cuts through whatever's happening and names it. When my mother got sick in 2022, Owen drove me to the hospital. Didn't ask. Just showed up with his car running. I want you to have that image of him, because what I'm going to describe is the same person. Same face, same voice, same everything on the surface, and nothing the same underneath. 3 things I need to establish. Owen lived alone in Munjoy Hill, 3rd floor apartment, building from the 1890s. He'd been there 4 years. He'd been going through something in the fall. He said work stress, said he was behind on a project, said he needed space to focus. I gave him space. I didn't push. And I walked Pocket every day at 4 p.m. on the Eastern Promenade, without exception. Owen knew this. Everyone who knew me knew this. October, 1st Tuesday. I noticed something was wrong. Not wrong like depressed. Not wrong like stressed. Wrong like a frequency I wasn't receiving correctly. Owen was there, same seat, same coffee. But the timing was off. He'd always been reactive in conversation. You say something, he responds. That Tuesday he was a half beat late, every single time, like he was translating something before he spoke. He'd mentioned sleep issues. Cognitive lag from bad sleep is real and documented. I've experienced it myself. Near the end of the hour, he said something I've thought about since, completely unprompted. We'd been talking about a client project. He said, "Do you ever think about what it would take to become something else?" I said, "Like a career change?" He looked at me. He said, "No." Then the timing reset and he laughed and said, "Ignore me. I'm not sleeping." I laughed too. I wrote it off. 2 weeks later, he invited me over. He hadn't done that in months. I went on a Thursday evening. The apartment was different, Not rearranged, not messy. Different in a way I kept trying to name and couldn't. He'd cleared things out. Minimalism. People do that when they're stressed. They simplify their environment. It wasn't minimalism. It was that certain things were missing and certain things had been added. Missing. The framed prints he'd had on the wall for years. The books on the shelf, mostly gone. Personal photos, added, nothing visible. But the apartment felt occupied in a way it hadn't before. Not crowded, occupied, like something was using the space differently than Owen had. I stood in his kitchen and felt like I'd walked into a room where a conversation had just stopped. Owen made coffee and we talked, and he was almost normal. Almost. The half-beat delay was still there. And once, just once, I caught him watching me in a way that didn't fit the conversation. The way you'd look at something you were assessing, not a friend, something you were deciding about. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then he blinked and made a joke, and I told myself I was projecting. I started paying attention to what Owen talked about. I kept a note on my phone, running list, every conversation. November. He mentioned across 3 separate Tuesdays the concept of substitution in folk practice, a documentary he'd been watching about isolated religious communities in New England. A question, seemingly academic, about whether animals could be used as anchors in ritual space. Owen went through phases. He'd once spent 3 months exclusively reading about Byzantine military history. Deep dives were normal for him. This was a dark phase. People have those. The animal question. I asked him what he meant by anchor. He said, "Some traditions believe you need a living thing connected to the subject to establish a channel. The animal functions as a kind of ground wire." He said it like he was describing a plumbing system. Completely flat. I said, "Connected how?" He looked at the table. He said, "It varies by tradition." He changed the subject. I looked at my note that night. 3 references across 6 weeks, all circling the same concept. I almost texted him. Then I didn't. I told myself I was constructing a pattern from coincidences. I'm good at pattern recognition. I should have trusted that earlier. December. Owen came to my apartment for the first time in months. Pocket had always liked Owen. That visit, Pocket wouldn't come into the room. He stayed in the hallway. I called him. He came to the doorway, looked at Owen, and went back. Dogs pick up on stress. Owen was clearly not himself. Pocket was responding to that. Before Owen left, he crouched down in the hallway to say goodbye to Pocket, the way he always did. Pocket backed up, not aggressively, not barking. He backed up slowly and kept his eyes on Owen the entire time. Owen stood back up. He said, "He's just tired." He said it without looking at me. I said, "Yeah." That night, Pocket slept against the bedroom door. He'd never done that. He always slept on the floor beside the bed. That night, the door, facing it. December 19th, 4 p.m. walk, Eastern Promenade. Pocket pulled toward the water. I let him lead. We got to the fence at the edge, the overlook above the rocks, and he stopped and looked down. I looked too. Nothing there, just water and rock. He stood looking for maybe 30 seconds. Then something changed in him. The alertness dropped. He turned and walked back toward the path. Normal, like nothing had happened. We walked back. At the trailhead parking lot, I stopped to check my phone. 30 seconds, maybe 45. I looked up. Pocket was gone. No leash tension. I looked at my hand. The loop of the leash was around my wrist. The clasp end open. The clasp doesn't open on its own. I've never had it open on its own. I searched for 2 hours. I filed a report with animal control. I put up posts. I drove the neighborhood until midnight. I texted Owen. He replied in 4 minutes. "I'm so sorry, man. He'll turn up." 4 minutes. Owen always takes 20 minutes to reply to texts. 3 days after Pocket disappeared, I was going through my phone looking at photos of Pocket to use for the missing posters. I found a photo I hadn't taken. On my camera roll, time-stamped 4:29 p.m., December 19th, 2 minutes before Pocket disappeared. Accidental photo. Pocket bumped the phone in my pocket. It happens. It wasn't accidental. The photo was clear, stable, not a pocket bump blur. It showed the promenade path, looking east. Owen was in the photo, standing on the path maybe 60 feet away, facing us. He hadn't mentioned being on the promenade. He hadn't mentioned being in that part of town. I went back through the text he'd sent. "I'm so sorry, man. He'll turn up." I looked at the timestamp. He'd texted me 4 minutes after I told him, but the photo was from 2 minutes before Pocket disappeared. Owen was there. He'd been there, and he hadn't said anything. I went back through every conversation I could remember, looking for the thing I'd missed, and I found it. October the 1st, Change Tuesday. Do you ever think about what it would take to become something else? I'd heard career change, but that wasn't the question. I'd misheard, misremembered, projection. I started looking into what Owen had been researching, the documentary he'd mentioned, about isolated religious communities in New England. I found it. 40-minute documentary, local Maine production, about a group that had operated in Aroostook County in the 1970s, disbanded after 2 members died. I watched it. At the 23-minute mark, a woman being interviewed, former member, elderly. Speaking carefully, she said, the tradition required a transfer, something that belonged completely to the subject, that the subject had genuine attachment to, not an object, something living. She said, once the transfer was complete, the subject was available. She said, available for what? The interviewer asked. The woman said, for the thing that needed a place to be. I watched that section 4 times. Something living, genuine attachment, available for the thing that needed a place to be. I looked at my phone. I called Owen. He answered on the first ring. I said, "Where's my dog, Owen?" Silence. Then he said, "You should come over." I went. I know. I've explained this to myself 100 times. The only answer I have is, I needed to see him, not Owen. Whatever was using Owen, I needed to see it directly. I could have called the police, could have sent someone else. I called my neighbor first, asked her to check my apartment in an hour, gave her Owen's address, told her to call someone if I didn't text by midnight. Then I drove to Munjoy Hill. I buzzed up. He let me in without saying anything through the intercom. I went up the stairs. His door was open. He was standing in the middle of the apartment, not at the door, not the kitchen, middle of the room, like he'd positioned himself there. He looked at me. Owen's face, Owen's eyes, something behind the eyes that was making decisions I couldn't read. He said, "It's almost done." I said, "Where is Pocket?" He said he was necessary. His voice was wrong, not different pitched, not distorted. Wrong the way the apartment had been wrong in December. Owen's voice the way the apartment had been Owen's apartment. The surface, the shape, nothing behind it that I recognized. I said, "Was." He looked at me. He said, "You were supposed to be further along." I said, "Further along what?" He said, "The process. You were supposed to be further along." He took a step toward me. I didn't step back. I said, "What process?" He stopped. Something moved across his face. Not emotion, something that had observed emotion and was attempting it. He said, "You're not afraid." I said, "I'm afraid." He said, "Not enough." He said it like a problem, a logistical problem. Like a process wasn't completing because a component wasn't performing correctly. I said, "Owen." I said his name directly. The thing behind his eyes shifted. A half second. Just a half second. Owen's eyes. Owen's expression. Confusion and recognition and something that looked like pain. Then gone. The other thing came back. It said, "He's not available right now." I looked past him. The door to the building storage room, down the back hallway, open. I could see light from it, dim, amber. And on the floor of the storage room, at the edge of the light, black leather, a collar, Pocket's collar. The tag would be on it, the little bone-shaped tag. I'd bought it at a pet store on 4th Street the month I got him. I don't remember what happened next in the exact sequence. I know I moved. I know Owen, the thing, moved to block me. I know his hand closed around my arm. I know the temperature of that grip. I know I hit the wall. I know the storage room door was closer than the front door. I know I went into the storage room and not out the front. I know what was on the floor of the storage room. I'm not going to describe it in detail. I'm going to say Pocket had been gone for 3 weeks, and what was on the floor of the storage room had been arranged, not discarded, arranged with care, in a pattern. The collar at the center, the tag face up. I stood in that room and I felt something leave me that I haven't gotten back. And then I heard Owen behind me. Not his voice. The thing's voice. It said, "You weren't supposed to see that." I turned around. Owen was in the doorway. His face was different again. Softer. More like him. And I didn't know if that was Owen coming back or the thing getting better at wearing him. I still don't know. I ran. He didn't follow me past the apartment door. I made it to my car. I drove to my neighbor's house. She opened the door. She looked at my face. She didn't ask anything. She just stepped aside and let me in. We reached out to 3 people who knew Owen Carver before October. All 3 described the same shift Marcus described. The timing delay, the quality of attention. One of them, a former coworker, said, "It's like talking to someone who is also doing something else. Like a phone call where you can tell the other person is distracted." Except Owen was never distracted. That was the thing about Owen. He was always completely present. We asked Marcus what he thought had happened to Owen. He said, "I think something needed a person. I think it found Owen first. And I think I was supposed to be second." We asked, "Second for what?" He said, "I don't know. I think the first person, Owen, functions like a door. And I was supposed to walk through it. The dog was supposed to be the key." He paused. "That's the part I can't get past. The dog was the key. To me. To my availability. Owen knew that. A pause. Whatever used Owen knew that. We asked what the difference was. Marcus said, "I've been trying to figure that out for 6 months. I don't have an answer yet." I filed a police report. I told them what I'd seen in the storage room. They went to Owen's building. Owen answered the door. He was cooperative, clear. The timing delay, gone. Just Owen. The storage room was empty, clean. No arrangement, no collar, no tag. The officer who came to follow up with me, she was kind. She said, "Sometimes grief manifests in ways that feel very real." She meant Pocket. She thought I'd had some kind of episode. I didn't argue. What would I have said? Owen called me the next day. He said he was worried about me. He said he'd been going through something in the fall. A bad period, isolated himself, not sleeping, and he thought I'd picked up on that and it had affected me too. He said, "I should have been a better friend." His voice was completely normal, warm, concerned. "Owen." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can we get coffee Tuesday?" I said, "I'll let you know." I haven't been to Tuesday coffee since December. I moved my work setup to a different room, facing the door. I'm not sure why I feel better facing the door. I just do. Pocket's leash is still on the hook by the front door. I haven't moved it. I don't know why I haven't moved it. Maybe because it's the only physical evidence that any of this was real. The clasp is still open. I've tested it 100 times since. It doesn't open on its own. It requires deliberate pressure on the release. Someone opened it while I was looking at my phone, while Owen was 60 feet away on the promenade. Someone opened it. And I don't know if Owen did it himself, or if Owen wasn't Owen by then. And I'm not sure which of those is worse. He texted me last week, "Thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay." I read it 4 times, then I screenshotted it, then I didn't reply. I don't know what to do with the fact that it sounded exactly like him. I don't know what to do with the fact that everything sounds exactly like him now. That's the part I can't resolve. I don't know if Owen is gone. I don't know if he's still in there, and whatever was using him has left. I don't know if what came back after that night is Owen, or if it's something that has had enough time with Owen to be convincing. I just needed someone outside of my own head to know. That's all. We located Owen Carver. He lives at the same Munjoy Hill address. He agreed to a brief phone call. He was, as Marcus described, completely normal. Articulate, warm, concerned about Marcus. He said Marcus had experienced something traumatic with his dog, and he thought it had destabilized him. He said, "I wish he'd talk to me." He said, "I miss my friend." We asked him about the documentary Marcus mentioned, about the communities in Aroostook County. He said he didn't remember watching it. He said, "That doesn't really sound like something I'd watch." We asked him about the Tuesday in October, the question about becoming something else. He said, "I don't remember saying that." He said it without hesitation, not defensively, just a fact. "I don't remember saying that." We ended the call. We ran one more check. Animal control records for Portland, Maine, December 19th through December 31st. One dog recovered during that period matching Pocket's description, found wandering near the Eastern Promenade on December 23rd. 4 days after Marcus reported him missing, healthy, uninjured. taken to the shelter on Kennebec Street. No one claimed him. He was adopted in January to a family in South Portland. A man named Owen Carver provided a character reference for the adopting family. We checked the shelter's records. The reference was submitted December 27th, 8 days after Pocket disappeared. Owen Carver gave a character reference for the family that adopted Marcus's dog. 8 days after Pocket disappeared, before Marcus had stopped searching, before the adoption had been publicly listed. We don't know how Owen Carver knew to submit that reference. We don't know how he knew where Pocket was. We asked Marcus if he wanted us to tell him where Pocket is now. He said yes. We told him. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Don't tell me the family's name." We asked why. He said, "Because if I know where he is, I'll want to go get him. And I don't know if that's what it's waiting for."